Alright, welcome to another Train Sim World 2 video, and this time I'm going to be talking about the Glasgow Cathcart Circle again, because there has been a second preview stream, and I feel like there's some new stuff in there which I didn't exactly cover in my first video, so I'm going to be changing the name of that original Thoughts on Cathcart Circle video, just because then it makes sense. That'll be part 1 because it'll be the first stream, and now talking about the second stream in this one, this will be part 2. Now we're not only going to be talking about Glasgow in this particular video. I have got the Class 101, a couple of things to say about it actually. However, without further ado, I'll begin. The previous stream was on Thursday the 3rd of June, I believe so, because the 4th of June is Friday, 5th of June Saturday. And so, yeah, I wanted to say that I was, again, very impressed with this DLC. And if you were to ask me, out of 10, what would you rate it? I would say at the moment it's going to be probably like an 8.5. Because there are still some things about it which are a little bit disappointing, and there are a few things that might be a bit off, shall we say. But those are mostly subjective things. If you can put those things aside, then I do think that you will enjoy the update, the DLC. Now I'm hoping that it works perfectly on day 1, so that I can just go into it, go into a stream if that works as well, and pick a random service. My plans for the stream will be, I'm going to do the tutorial. I'm also going to be doing one of the service modes, so one of the particular services, and then I'll probably try and maybe take it into Scenario Designer just for a short run, because I want to have a bit of freedom with it. I want to really get to grips with it in just one stream. Now I do think it's easy to operate, because in that second preview stream we did see a lot of how it operates. Basically, Matt, who was basically operating everything to do with the stream, and Natalie was doing the answering the questions and all that, and reading all the chat. Matt showed us how to operate it. Basically gave us an in-depth look at all the working controls, or at least most of them. There is one thing that he didn't have during the stream, and that was the fan. Because I remember, I think in the first preview stream, there's like a little plastic fan in the cab which you can turn on. Now I don't know if it just wasn't working in that build, or he just didn't want to turn it on, but hoping that is definitely a thing, because that's pretty interesting to see an actual fan moving inside a cab. I mean, it sounds very minor, I know, but trust me, it does pump up the immersion a little bit, especially you seeing an actual fan operating, because otherwise it's aircon really, and you don't really feel anything. You don't feel cooler or warmer in the cab. We haven't gotten to that kind of level of detail with like virtual reality. So yeah, I think that was a pretty cool thing. He didn't show us how to turn it on, so maybe I have to watch the first preview stream and just have a look, because maybe he showed us in there. Anyway, AWS, that's easy to turn on. I mean, usually it's more than a one-step process, but in the 314 it looks like a one-step process to turn that on, so that's nice. I know how to do that. Performance wise, it performs really nicely. It's quite quick off the mark is the 314. Braking is also good. Interestingly enough, I learned another difference between the 314 and 313. The 313 is a different gearbox. Now the gearbox that it uses, I believe it's termed as a gearbox or a transmission or something like that. The gearbox is like the one if you got on the Bakerloo line and you operating the 1972 underground stock. you'll notice that instead of going throttle 1, 2, 3, 4, it's shunt and then series and then parallel for the different power levels, and then obviously off, you know. So it has a gearbox like that, just the 313. The 314 just has regular 1, 2, 3, 4, and I believe that that is 100% accurate to how it is in real life. So yeah, that's good. I mean, that's an interesting difference between the two. And overall, the only things that I would be worried about is, first of all, do you like the idea behind Cathcart Circle? Because if you're just not into passenger services, then you probably won't want to hear any more about it, because it is about passenger stuff. Now, I think there's going to be some freight related things going on it. I think there are other locomotives that can run on it. Oh, that was crazy in the footage there, I don't know. Just springing up into the air, that was a bit weird. Don't know what happened there, but you know, it is a passenger oriented thing, and if you just don't like passenger stuff, then unfortunately Glasgow, I don't think it's going to offer anything for freight people very much. I suppose you can take freight trains on it if you went in scenario planner, which is, you know, an interesting idea, but I don't think there's going to be any freight stuff for it, so that potential is just not there. And also there is a little bit of a, there is a reason why we've only got one locomotive in the route. Ideally there should be more. This was one of the common things that were brought up during the stream, is that ideally, you know, Glasgow Central Station, it should be bustling with activity, but at the moment it's just not, because we've only got the 314. And the reason we've only got the 314 at the end of the day, and only in one livery, is because of time constraints. And I'm willing to believe that, because, I mean, look at how many DLCs have been releasing lately, and also the fact that they're planning rush hour, which is a big thing. If you really look at it, if you analyse everything that's in there, you'll figure out that, yeah, it's a pretty big thing, and also they're doing core updates this year as well. So that's important too, and you know, I'd rather them, I don't know, I mean, if we have more stuff in Glasgow, I suppose it would be more appealing. Don't get me wrong, be a good thing. But if they just simply couldn't do it, I'm willing to, you know, let it slide, on the basis that one day, if we let them know that we want extra stuff for it, we can actually get some extra stuff. Like DLC locomotives. I know that's more money we're going to have to spend, but I mean, it is what it is. And I'm happy at least that they chose the 314, because it looks like a good choice. Not that there are any bad choices really for that route. They did consider doing the 318 and the 320, I believe, for locomotives originally. They weren't even thinking about the 314, but then someone said it would be a crime if you didn't include it, so that's why. Now, another issue which, if you're an expert on this route in real life, or the history and stuff like that, then you'll probably realise that we don't have the SPT Carmine and Cream livery, which was the predominant one at the time in which the route was set. And to be honest, it was the predominant one until basically the end of the 314's lifespan on the route. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that the vast majority of 314s had the old Carmine and Cream livery, whereas a minority of them had the ScotRail livery. Whereas in Glasgow Cathcart Circle, the actual route itself, all of the 314s have ScotRail liveries, which is, I think, how ScotRail wanted it to be, but didn't manage to get around to it. Probably something along those lines. I mean, it makes sense. It's a Scottish route. ScotRail they are in charge of it at this time. 2017, I believe it's set in. But still, it would have been nice to get the Carmine and Cream livery, just for, it would add some variety. Not only that, it will be a little bit more accurate, but again, time constraints, it meant that they couldn't do that. So, I mean, it's got rail livery, it's nice looking. I'm not going to complain about it. I like them both, but it's got rail, I mean, that's alright with me. If it's the only one we're going to be getting, either one would have been fine though. So, yeah, overall, 8.5 out of 10 is the rating. The only other thing which you might find like a negative is the price, because it's £25. That's Great British pounds for one locomotive and one route. Granted, the route has got 20 miles of track on it, 90% of which, 96% of which is actually usable. I think there's only one piece of track that isn't usable, and that's because it serves as part of the environment to enhance it, really, because it would just look weird if it just wasn't there. But, you know, that sounds like a good deal on the face of it. But it's still £25 for one locomotive, one route. And there are quite a few scenarios and services to do. And obviously you can use the 314 on other routes if you got Scenario Designer and stuff like that, or you can create new liveries for it if yours actually works. On my PS4 it doesn't, it likes to crash. But I mean, I can create like one layer thing, like colour it just a different colour. I can do that. What I can't do is anything more complex. Because my PS4 for some reason goes, I don't like that, and then just gives up. And I don't know why that is, and I don't know if it's my PS4's fault, because it is an old thing. I will be honest there. It's one of the original models. It's very chunky. So it may be just that it's just too old, or can't handle something in the game, or something like that. But I don't know. Don't know what's going on with that. It should work though. Really, really should. But yeah, the price. If you are fine with that, if you can afford to pay that, if you think it's worth it, then by all means, get it. You know, I'm going to be getting it on day one. It's going to be £25, but I factored that in. I can afford it. Nothing really wrong with it. I'm just excited to drive a new locomotive and on a new route, which could probably serve as a route that I drive on quite often. So there's that. Now let's just go away from Cathcart Circle. Basically my overall rating 8.5 out of 10, because I don't like giving 10 out of 10 because I know it's not perfect. I know there's something somewhere that's just not right with it. And I don't want to say, oh, it's 10 out of 10. Even if for me it's perfectly fine, for other people it's not going to be. You know, there are still going to be things that people find fault with that I wouldn't. So that's why I'm giving it 8.5 out of 10, which is still really, really good, considering there's been a few routes recently that I just haven't been interested in whatsoever. But I'd still give them probably like a 6, 7, maybe even more. I don't know. Just know that I like Glasgow, how it's looking so far, and I'm excited to get it on June the 10th. Now, what else? Well, let's talk about the actual content of this video finally. This is the Class 101. I might actually redo this video with different footage, or maybe not. Maybe if I can cover the 101 in this particular video. So the Class 101 is basically my Achilles heel. It has been since it's ever been in my collection. I first encountered it on Northern Transpennine. I instantly was so confused by it, and it was just, to me it was like it's like trying to put your shoes on using your socks. It's like trying to wash your hands using your feet. It's just not going to happen. For me, it was just fumbling around so much that I thought, you know what, this is just so annoying to me because I can't get the hang of it. Now eventually what I did is I've actually progressed very heavily, very much so with this one. Before I couldn't use the Class 101 at all because I was either afraid to drive it because I'd look like an idiot whilst doing so, or I just didn't understand how it worked. So here's the thing with the Class 101, there are two things about it which you're going to probably find difficult. First of all is the gearbox. The gearbox, this train does have gears, like a car has gears, so at a certain number of revs you change up a gear, and you can change down a gear if you go at the right speed. So the principle is still the same with this one. It's got gears, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 gears. Technically neutral is a gear, and with that in mind, first gear is from obviously 0 to 16, 17, and then you can change up to 2, which goes up to 27, 28, 29, and then you can change up again to 3, and then at some point it will change up to 4. And to change up, all you have to do is just let off the throttle, and then there'll be an indicator on the dashboard. It's that thing which is on the left of the screen right now. When that yellow dial is pointing towards the end of that of the display, that's when you're at maximum revs in the current gear, and that's when you can let off the throttle and then change up the gear. You can change down at any time by just slowing down and getting into the right gear if you remember the range of the speeds, as far as the right gear to be in. Now the gearbox I found easy. That part, once I knew how to do it, I could do it flawlessly every time. What I can't do is the brakes. The brakes are, I believe it's a vacuum brake system. And to explain how it works, it's like if you've got a tap. If you're in the UK you'll know what a tap is, but if you're in the US you'll call it a faucet. A tap or a faucet, right? Or a faucet. I think you'd rather say faucet, right? Anyway, like a tap or a faucet. Turn it one way, the water comes out. Turn it the other way, the water stops coming out. It's like that, but it's with air. So this system operates the brakes. So when you open up the tap, you allow the air to get into the system, you allow the brakes to become filled with air, and you allow them to actually come on. And then if you release it, you're letting air out of the system, which means you're releasing the brakes, if that makes any sense. Now, the further towards the apply position that you put it, the more air you're going to be letting in through the valve. If you think of it like that, the more air you're letting into the system, so the faster the brakes will come on. If you release it, the further along you release it, the more air you're going to be losing. So that's it. Basically translates out to the rate at which you're losing the air. So if that makes any sense to you, then great. But if it still doesn't make any sense to you, I wouldn't blame you, because it's not something that everyone can get their heads around. But the problem is knowing how much braking power you actually need on the 101, because when you first drive it, you'll probably put on the brakes and you'll think, why is it not slowing down? And then you'll instinctively apply more brakes to the point at which they'll all just come on, and then you'll be slowing down a bit too quickly and like, no, release, so you're releasing it, and then you find out, actually no, I'm going too fast. Apply, release. It's just that over and over and over again until you finally manage to get it to a stop. That's the first time around. But if you then understand, the method that I'm using is I'm slowing it down to about 20 miles an hour on approach to the stop, and then from there I'm going to be basically giving it a little bit of braking power, just so I know I can stop it within the time allotted to me, within the space. And so far during this video, that's what I've been doing, and it's been working. been working surprisingly well actually. But as for doing what real train drivers do, which is just applying braking power very early on and then just magically coming to the stop at the right place, I can't do that. Definitely not with this thing. But I'm fine using my own method because it works for me, and if it works for you too, then obviously use it. You know, no one's going to force you to play this game any particular way. You know, and if you want to get the gold medal on certain service modes, there are ways to do it without, you know, completely being like a real train driver, like not completely stopping the right place. You know, there are ways to do it. You don't have to account for the passengers. You can just slam on the brakes if you really need to stop. And no one's going to judge you for that. No one's going to judge you for doing that because it's an emergency situation. You're going to have to stop. Especially now. I mean, if I ran past this red light, I would fail the whole thing. So, you need to stop. It's important that you do stop. And the rate at which you stop is kind of irrelevant at the end of the day. Sure, it will knock the passengers forward, maybe there'll be complaints, but I think they'd understand at the end of the day. And also the virtual passengers, who cares? Who cares? Live a little. If you need to stop, you need to stop. Simple as. So yeah, I'm gonna keep working on mastering the 101. Hopefully in a while's time I'll be able to say, oh, I'm perfectly confident with the 101, I'm no longer scared of it. I still am very cautious with this thing though. I don't trust it entirely. And that sounds crazy because it's an inanimate train, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm pleased with myself though. I'm pleased that I've actually got somewhere further with it. I actually managed to make a really nice video based on it. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening about my thoughts about Cathcart Circle and also the 101 at the end here. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. I don't mind. Genuinely don't mind. Thanks for coming. I'll see if I can stream Glasgow when it comes out. See you all around.